In these the last days, the end of the book, the spiral times, let's take a look. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so here I am, here I am with my Bible. Okay, so this video is about Haile Selassie I, and how Haile Selassie I is the kind of like the missing link in the theology question. Theology versus atheism, which means no theology, and the need that the non-apparent need for Haile Selassie I from other Judeo-Christian religions. So first of all, I'd like to say authoritarianism is the worst thing ever. You know, that's like the authoritarianism, fascism, those are the worst concepts ever. And no good society comes from, there's never been a successful incidence where those are good ideas. So that's certainly not what I mean by that. I just mean, there should obviously be a choice. I mean, there already is the choice to be atheist. You can either choose to believe in something or not choose to believe in something, and that's best. That's best for society. It's better that be the case. But it also should be a freedom that you can choose if you want to. So on my channel, really what I'm up to is there's already a bunch of good atheist channels, and my channel's full of atheist points and atheist videos and everything. I see the Yansui as the ultimate alternative to atheism, and so that's kind of what this video is about. Okay, so when you hear the argument against prophecy, yeah, there's been a lot of failed prophet. They've all been failed prophecies. Everybody that's claimed to know what's going to happen in the future has been wrong. Everybody. I think that there's lots of evidence for a person, and I think most people have realized that by now, that the idea of prophesying what's going to happen and betting all your chips on that prophecy is an out-of-date concept. By now we should know that people can't do that. People can't prophesize the future, They can kind of in very kind of like arbitrary ways do it, but not in really useful ways at the same time, I think that the fear of the economy, I have a playlist on, I'll leave a link in the description box, on the apocalypse, and the playlist, I try to have it look at, many different possibilities, not just one, certainly not the apocalyptic one, which is the biblical one. This video is more about the apocalyptic one. So the thing with Haile Selassie I, so for those of you that don't know, Haile Selassie I was the emperor of Ethiopia from 1930 to 1974. And so he brought in modernization into Ethiopia, and has everything to do with modern Ethiopia, and bridge the gap between what Ethiopia was before that with what it would be forever in the future. So that's who he is. His most famous moment, he has two really famous moments. He has three really famous moments. Before he was emperor, he followed in his dad's footsteps and toured through Europe as Ras Tafari. Ras means Duke. He changed his name at the coronation in 1930 to Haile Selassie I. So when he was Ras Tafari, he toured all through Europe, and that's a pretty known thing. And then in 1930, the coronation, people came from countries everywhere to come see the Lion of Judah be coronated in Ethiopia. And then the other one was in one of the sparks that started World War II, with his speech in 1936 to the League of Nations. Now, the League of Nations is kind of like the UN before there was a UN. The League of Nations fizzed out, and out of the ashes of the League of Nations is where the UN comes from. He was the first statesman to speak at the UN when the UN was new too, and reminded him of this story, which is probably his most famous moment. So the fascist armies of Mussolini came down into Ethiopia and tried to take over Ethiopia, and did take over Ethiopia using illegal warfare. So Haile Selassie I went to the League of Nations and said, "Hey, Italy's down here. What good's the League of Nations? They're doing exactly what you guys are supposed to stop. They're breaking all your rules, and you're just letting them do it. History will tell what you do or don't do about this. I'm just making sure you know about it." And it was known to be one of the most famous speeches of that century. So those are the famous things about Haile Selassie I. If you study the subject of Haile Selassie I, the subject of people like me, the Rastafarians, comes up. A Rastafarian, or the Rastafarian is what people that aren't Rastas call us. We call ourselves Rastas, coming from Rastafari. I already told you what that means. We come up because we believe that Haile Selassie I is the Lion of Judah of Revelations 5:5. Okay, so if you look in my I have a playlist. I'll leave a link in the description box. I have a whole playlist on Haile Selassie I. Towards the first of it, I tell his life story from my perspective as a Rasta. So now, even in the realm of Rasta, there's a pretty big variety of how someone would tell the story. Okay, so this is kind of like a bigger picture of who Haile Selassie I is to me, and who he could be to many other people that are trying to fight in favor of theism. Okay, and most theologists would call me an atheist, or like they do. Like they're like, "Oh, well, you're not one of us." I'm a witch. I am. I'm a witch. A witch can choose any deity, and I like Jesus and Mary, and Haile Selassie I, and those are the symbols I use for God. I believe a God is really just an archetype. It's a kind of like a word, a vocabulary word, a tool. Just like a word is a tool, you can use God is a word to it's in the symbol of a person and their life story to symbolize an archetype. So Jesus is the archetype of how to love one another to me. Mary's is the high priestess that takes you to Jesus, and is the kind of Mary for me is kind of more the central focus. I come to Mary and she's kind of like my lawyer to talk to I come to Jesus with my lawyer, and that's his mom, Mary. I've never heard anyone describe it that way, and I have to admit, I've never described it that way. I just made that up, but maybe I'll start using that. That's kind of what it's like. The high priestess, of course, is the pathway. Those of you that know the Kabbalah, the quickest route from the center of the tree of life, number 6, to the top, number 1. It's the camel that you ride, the Gimel, if you know your Kabbalah. So it is. It's and that's why she's dressed in sky blue. I've done many videos on Mother Mary. I have a whole playlist on that too. A whole playlist on Jesus. I call Jesus Yahushua. So the playlist called Yahushua. And then my Haile Selassie I is the archetype of what we need to do to take the next step in our evolution as a species, and the end result is world peace. So Haile Selassie I is the archetype of what we need to do to realize the the desire to live in world peace, the possibility of world peace, and how that could be possible, And that's what his life story is all about. So from a biblical perspective, so what the atheists are getting wrong. So like when I listen to atheists talk about how the Bible's mostly fiction, I agree. And if you've listened to my videos, you know that the Bible is mostly fiction. To me, the Bible, I'll bet the Bible's like between 60 and 80% fiction, depending on what book you're talking about and stuff like that. I mean, I consider it a fact. It's like there's overwhelming evidence to support that. It's, so one thing we humans are going to have to do is mature our souls and mature ourselves enough to accept that fact. The Bible's not a book of science, and it's not the perfect, infallible word of God. And God's not a man in the sky either. And I've gone over what the tetragram is, and that what Yahweh really means, the deity. If you look at my playlist, Who Wrote the Bible, it goes over that. It goes over how Yahweh was a deity before it was taken. Everything that's biblical and Judeo-Christian was taken from other things. We see artists do that. Any artist, any musician had influences. John Lennon's influence was Elvis. Elvis came before John Lennon. It's just a fact. A lot of the things that John Lennon did that was so amazing, that Elvis deserves some of that credit because it was his big hero and his big influence. If there was no Elvis, there probably wouldn't have been a John Lennon. And that's exactly how the deity Yahweh was. It was already a deity out there that was taken in. But then again, and then that deity means fire, water, air, and earth. So it didn't. The original idea never was that it's a man up in the sky. That was a later addition. So was the heaven and hell concepts. Those are all later additions. Much of Christianity are later additions, and all the books are later additions. If the book's about Moses, it's not really necessarily written by Moses. If it's about Jesus, it's not written about Jesus. So some of them were written, 100 or 200 or 300 years later. It's like, it's just not what it says it to be. So when the Bible says the end times, that's the end of the book. That's one of the main things I'm trying to accomplish on this channel. Yeah, it's winter time. That's my heater. It'll turn off. I just turned it down so it'll turn off. It takes it a second. So at the end of the book, that's so. The apocalypse, like if you read the last chapter of the Bible, and again, the book of Apocalypse wasn't the last book written, and it wasn't the intention of the book wasn't that it would be the end of the story, nowadays Bible historians are proven, like Bart Ehrman, I think it is, like he's amazing. I love all those guys. I listen to all of them and learn from all of them. Much to be learned. I'm not scared of reality. I love reality. I love facts and science. And I like to mix in as much of that as possible into what I believe, so I can believe with confidence and not have to be afraid of things that are real, And that's also something we need to do if we want to move to the next step in our evolution. But the Bible, I believe the Bible was written... there's all these facts and everything like that, but in a way that I believe the Bible is written in such a way that it's life saying, here's the Bible to just a regular person. Go ahead and read it, because it does have a story flow and a context. And if you look at it like it's more just the stories of the elders, the teaching the children and teaching people around the campfire, which is the original religion. It was never supposed to be a priestly thing. It's more just story. The concept of stories teach people well, And if you look at it that way and read it as a story, the way the story goes is that the Lion of Judah, the last, book of Apocalypse, the book of Revelations, is in a very logical place because it's about how the story ends. So it's obvious why it's at the end of the book. It's how the story ends, and how the story ends is that we don't need the Bible anymore. And that's the story of the Bible. And we will live in world peace. We'll stop judging each other. Cannabis will be legalized. The end. That's what chapter 22 of Revelations is about. Let the filthy be filthy still. Let the righteous be righteous still. Everybody quit arguing about everything. Let's just get together with temperance and the healing powers of fire and temperance, and unite ourselves in one love, one community, and aspire to the ideas that by now we should know work, and that war doesn't work, and that we can live in world peace. And then we don't need to believe there's a man in the sky and that the Bible is the Word of God, because we will have outgrown that, and we'll be ready for better ideas, that actually work. The end, That's why my intro song says, in these the last days, the last days referred to in the Bible, the end of the book, which is what I was just talking about, the spiral times, because time is not a linear thing, it's a spiral. And it's always been that way, and it always will be that way. Let's take a look, meaning let's hear what Angie has to say about it. And and so here we are. But anyway, so how does the story end then? Well, how the story ends and what people like. So like I wish I could debate with some of these Bible historians, which would be scary because they know a lot more than I do. They know more about the ancient languages. They know more about the archaeology and everything. And it'd be all, wow, Angie thinks she can come up against these guys. I think I can. I want to get in a discussion, a debate with these people. Right now, there's lots of emphasis on that the book of Apocalypse is a failed prophecy, and that it was never meant for right the way we're using it now. And I agree that it's already happened. But the part they never talk about what the story really is, the story itself. The story itself, it's saying that it starts out by saying the Lord will come in the cloud, which all through the Bible, especially in the Torah, in the books of Moses, the Lord comes in a cloud. It's a cloud of incense. And it says the saints will burn incense. So in the last days, the good guys will burn incense. And the Lord will come in that incense smoke, and that they'll play musical instruments and use music. That there'll be a minority, and I have a video called "Who's the Antagonist in the Last Days" or something like that, and go over that in more detail. I'm trying to turn a new leaf where I don't go over information I've already gone over and just refer you to the video. I need to do that more. But this one is extra emphasis on the question, who is the Lion of Judah? So according to the story, there's the seven churches, and there's their argument is that those places all exist, Sardis and, the last three, which are the most significant to us, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea, which are places, and they're describing a place and talking about that place. Like Laodicea, the Lord will spew the water out their mouth. The problem with the city of Laodicea is that their water wasn't good. It wasn't, they had all these fantastic modern things and this healing eye salve and all these amazing things, but the drinking water was warm, and they just didn't have good drinking water. And you would spew it out your mouth. It's all warm and disgusting. But you have to drink water to live, so you would anyway. That was the ancient city of Laodicea, but it's not. It's talking about that's what it's like today. That we have so much. This is the age of Laodicea right now. They're different eras. The era of the church in Sardis as it pertains to today, it has in common the characteristics of the ancient city of Sardis. So Babylon itself, the bad guy is called Babylon. Babylon was an ancient city, and it has the characteristics of that city. It's the style, it's the artistic style of the story that it talks about ancient cities that existed back then and relates it to how things are going to be in the future. In Matthew 24, Jesus is asked about the future, and describes the times that fit these times perfectly. That's also in Who's the Antagonist, that video that I made kind of recently. I think it's the video I made before this one, so it should be easy to find. But then, so the church in Sardis, that's where religion was in an evolutionary sense before Haile Selassie I. The church in Philadelphia starts in 1930 to 1974. That's the era of the church in Philadelphia, because, like I said, that was the era of the Lion of Judah. So the Lion of Judah, besides coming in a cloud of incense, his followers would be burning incense. The characteristics, if you read in the second chapter, here, let me make sure I give you the right reference. Okay, here it is. So, see, love your Bible. Look at that. Mine has so many dates and notes and stuff and everything. So at moments like this, I can just go find right where I was. So, there's the church in Ephesus. There's a church in Smyrna. The church in Pergamos. The church in Thyatira. There it is, the church of Sardis. It talks about the church of Sardis, and there it is, the church of Philadelphia. The church in Philadelphia is the third chapter. It talks about the church of Philadelphia in chapter 3 of the book of Revelations, also called the Apocalypse, from verse 7 to verse 13. It's talking about the church in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia says, "Him that overcometh, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my God." Haile Selassie I means power of the Trinity. I need to do another video on just that. Just the name Haile. It's all about the name Haile Selassie I. Nikola Tesla talks about how you got to think more in the terms of vibration and the number 3 and 9, which is a number of the number 3. It's about the number 3. The number 9 is all about the number 3, and these numbers, the number 3 is not a random number. It's a powerful number, and I should just do a video on just that. I better stop talking about it. So the name of my God, I'll write upon him the name of my God. So that's Haile Selassie I. And the name of the city of my God. Okay. The capital of Ethiopia is Addis Ababa, which means new flower, the New Jerusalem, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven. So sometimes the translations don't say out of the clouds, they say out of heaven. From my God, and I will write upon him my new name. So like in Isaiah 62 verse 2, it talks about the new name. The Lion of Judah, like the things that we know from like scriptures before it and stuff, is that he would come like a thief in the night. So people like nowadays, they say stupid things, like they say, the Lion of Judah comes like a thief in the night. That means he comes when you least expect it. That's not how thieves come. If a thief is going to come and when it least expects it, it wouldn't matter if it was, I guess it'd be better at night, but a thief comes in the middle of the night so they can come and go, so they can get in and out without anybody knowing about it. And Haile Selassie I came and went, and nobody realized, nobody recognized him for what he was, which is the Lion of Judah of the book of Revelations. Of course, every knee and every tongue would have to confess, and every nation, every people could recognize Haile Selassie I as the Lion of Judah. All their newspapers called him the Lion of Judah, and said, "Come see the Lion of Judah." So he would have to come. He would have to have the name that means God from a place that could be called New Jerusalem, and would has to have followers that burn incense. Psalm 87, it makes it clear he'd have to be born from Ethiopia, and it would have to be said that he's born from Ethiopia, and it would have to be said that he's born from Ethiopia, and it would have to be said that he was born of Ethiopia, or something like that. It keeps repeating over and over again that he would have to be born of Ethiopia. And you'd have to have a new name, so his name can't be Jesus. So if someone says it's Jesus, the Lion of Judah is Jesus, no, it can't be Jesus, because Jesus is the same name as the previous Advent, right? So, and another one is like when Jesus was being crucified, according to the story, though again, most of that's fiction. And so like you're like, well, if it's fiction, but see, thought forms, okay? Perhaps I should do a video just on thought forms. You know, talking about this subject, it's hard to do because there's so many counterparts, you know? But, so something else that I haven't mentioned so far is the book of Revelations, by the way, is a vision that supposedly Jesus appeared on the island of Patmos and gave John, but it's a recap of a vision that Daniel was given. So it's very important. This is very important, and this is what people get wrong because. So anyway, so then the followers of Haile Selassie, of this guy, of the Lion of Judah, would have to call him by his new name, you know, a new name that means all those things. Okay, and then it's the second to last era, you know. It doesn't end at Philadelphia, it ends at Laodicea. So the era of Laodicea is from 1977 till today, you know. And around that time there was the worst earthquakes and things just were worse than history had ever seen. Of course, before Haile Selassie I was born, the sun didn't shine for a day called the Dark Day. I have videos on that. So just listen to the story of Haile Selassie I at the beginning of the playlist about Haile Selassie I. I'll leave a link, and you can see all that, the new star that was born and all the different things. But the Lion of Judah, the thing is that the book would be sealed till the time of the end. So it goes over the different eras, and then it says, and I saw on the right side of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the table, sealed with the 7 seals. So in the vision, it's like and then here's the book that tells us how we can fix all our problems, but it's sealed. Nobody can read it. It's sealed shut. And so John's like, but that's so horrible. Like, how can we open that book? How can we take these seals up? And he says in verse 5, weep not. It says, and one of the elders said unto me, weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. Of course, Haile Selassie I is related to Jesus, is of the tribe of Judah. That's why they call him the Lion of Judah. He was born on July 23rd, so he was born in the astrological time of Leo, and he had lions in his house. Like we have dogs and cats, he had lions that lived with him and loved lions, and was known as the Lion of Judah, and fits all the descriptions, and is the only one that fits all the descriptions. So what I'm telling you now, you should be like, oh, what? Is this the same book that all these Bible historians and atheists and all these people are talking about? It is. It's the same book. This is the part of the story that they'll never tell you. Because the only person that's ever going to qualify as the Lion of Judah is Haile Selassie I. And then people might say, but all these spectacular things that would happen. I have videos about the rapture. The rapture is not a real thing. The Bible doesn't teach that there will be a rapture. The cloud is cannabis. If you want to get to know this deity properly, you need to smoke some cannabis and call upon his name, like it says in the Psalms. You know, give thanks and praises and call upon his name, like the scriptures say, you know. And then study his life and figure out how it's relevant to these things. So he would come like a thief in the night, and he would also need to open, on top of all that, he has to open the 7 seals. That's what the Lion of Judah does. See? And so Haile Selassie I opened the 7 seals. Uh, some say he opened the seventh one. The seventh seal, like it talks about all six seals in one chapter, the sixth chapter of Revelations, and then the seventh seal doesn't happen until the next chapter. What is it? It's like way later. And when he opened the seventh seal, chapter 8, verse 1, there was silence about a half hour. So it's not the next chapter, but the 2 chapters later, the seventh seal is opened. And it talks about all this stuff that's happened. So it's because between the sixth seal and the seventh seal opening, I believe that's the era of Laodicea. And the seventh seal won't be opened until we're actually living in peace. Today there's still wars and rumors of wars, like Jesus described, so that obviously we're not living in peace yet. So I don't believe the seventh seal's been opened, you know? And I'm not sure what that's going to mean. I'm not going to pretend that I know. You know, there's lots of Rosses that do believe that actual Jesus, not Haile Selassie I, is going to come down. I think maybe they might even think from the sky and go to the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem and begin the world peace and all this stuff. And maybe it'll happen like that. I don't really know. But first of all, before I go over the seven seals a little bit, and that's, again, if you want to know the details about how Haile Selassie I opened each of the seven seals, well, not the seventh, each of the six seals, again, go to my playlist on Haile Selassie I. There's a link in the description box. And you can hear his life story, and it goes over that. It tells you the details on each one. The first seal was opened in 1916, the second seal in 1936. The second seal is when he spoke before the League of Nations, the story I already told you. That was the second seal being opened. And it says, and there was another horse that was red, and the rider of the red horse had a great sword. That was Hitler. And I go over that on the previous video I made just like days ago about who is the antagonist. And the rider of the red horse, it's a red horse because it's fascism and authoritarianism, like we see today. You know, it's a question of those things. Should we have a secular society or an authoritarian fascist society? Of course, the great sword Hitler had was the spear of destiny that pierced the side of Jesus. And there's a link in my other video on the antagonists for a documentary about that, how Hitler did have a great spear, the spear of destiny, a great sword. The third seal was opened in 1949. The fourth seal was opened in 1954. The fifth seal in 1966, and the sixth seal was just when he was deposed in between 1975 and 1977. We don't know exactly when it happened. He just kind of disappeared from heaven. I say he ascended to heaven just to make people angry. You know, I don't know what happened. We've since found his bones, and there's been many attempts to say, here he is. He was buried over here, but they finally found something that sounds legitimate. Rita Marley was there, and she kind of put her stamp of approval on it, which is she's incredible. I'm a fan of her. That makes it a lot more believable to me. But the point is that he opens the sixth seal by just disappearing, you know, and just the implications of it all. I think of the movie The Lorax. If you've seen Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, at the very end, the Lorax goes up into heaven, and he leaves us with just one word: unless. Unless we do this and unless we do that, the world will not be